to be. Yeah, it's a thermos. It's better than it used to be. Remember how it used to be, really cold at some times, and then it was inconsistent. But with the windows and the roof and I don't know. But these things, the heat pumps. In the summer it cools, in the winter, so in the winter, so I have two of them, and they're both on heat right now, so they kind of work together. And then that side has it too. So, it keeps the temperature pretty consistent. Yeah, it seems like it's warm, but it's really only like 68. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because that's what it reads. I had to turn it down a little, but I think it's just and downstairs they're heated, so the heat is probably coming up from the floor. So, anyways, that's enough about heat. Anybody watching said so. Okay, first exercise. All right, ready? Turning here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. To the side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay? Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. To your left. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. To your left. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, one more time. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. 2, 3. To your left. 2, 3. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, hands in your waist. Circular movements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center, reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center cross. Knees. Circular movements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, and stop. Okay, center. Hands on your waist. Neck turning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Center back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, center, tilt to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, and stop. Down, circular movements. 1, 2, 3. Reverse. 1, 2, 3. Center. Pull an inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, spread your feet. Okay, turn your waist. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, and stop. Okay, we stretch it out. So did you get the article I sent on the... No? Oh, I sent it out last week. Really? It was... Gee, that's strange. I highlighted in... Switch. Yeah, after class I'll see if I can do it again. Yeah, I sent it to the 3 of you. Switch. Straighten the front knee. Switch. Switch. Okay, center. Okay, shake it out. So that's a okay, deep breathing. So, movements are driven. So whatever you kind of want it to do, so you try to, so it keeps them, um, you know, active and directed. So it's kind of wiring you to do that. So, and then the muscles have to have this relationship of balance. It's part of proprioception. It's also, so all of that is the stuff, kind of the ideas of, how the brain really controls a lot of things through movement. And, so the psychosomatic idea that it's only in your head, it's not necessarily is the way they were thinking, that it's also in your body. So what your body kind of tells your head, it's real. It actually does happen. Which one do you trust? Yeah. So you have to make the judgment. So, but actually, if it's your body won't let you do it if it's really going to be that bad. Yeah. But the thing is, you have to try, I guess. And you put your body through this process, and then it adapts and it learns and it goes through this whole process, and it figures it out. Even though you're not really, you don't know exactly how it's doing it, but it does happen. You know, that's what habits are, creatures of habit. So we do things over and over again, and eventually, we figure it out, and it gets better. So we're here. Is that where we are? And reverse. And sun. Okay, press, release, exhale, inhale. And stop. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, wrists. Oh, we did that. Elbows and knees. Reverse. Sana. Okay, palms down. Bigger circle. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay, shake it out. Okay, side to side, working on the balance. Okay, Sana. And Sana. Okay, let's try the up and down. And switch. And Sana. Okay, shake it out. Okay, yeah, switch, swing. Switch, other side. And Sana. Okay, switch. And Sana. Okay, shake it out. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, forward and back. Okay, switch. Okay, open and close. Switch. Okay, center. Circular movements. Okay, lower hoop. Shoulder height. Elbows down. Palms down. Extend. Keep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, diagonal flying. Switch. Okay, cloud hands. Okay, palms down. Lift up. Infinity sign. Okay, form the fist. Okay, palms together. Strum the lute. Turn, draw the bow. Okay, fan to the back. Okay, raise the hand. Okay, palms down. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, so go through the short form first. Let's see, is this mirror in a good position? I think we need a little bit more of a angle. So, what's that? Yeah, yeah. And this line actually is the line that is focused to that camera, and it's also the point that this gives you the best, you know. So they have a pretty good view of everyone there. Okay, ready? Preparation. Okay, deep breathing. Okay. How do you feel? Any questions? Yeah. Leopard and Tiger Springs. The punch. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So there's stylistic differences, like in the 24 movement when they do the Leopard and Tiger Springs to Mountain. It's like going over a ball, like there's a invisible or imaginary sphere. In fact, when you do your movement, there is this imaginary sphere that you're sort of creating, the patterns and also the volume of movement to make it dimensional. Because stylistic differences come in partially because of functionality and interpretation of movement. So when you punch and you cross the arms, the intent of the movement is what modifies the way it's done. So when we cross our arms and we go across the body like this, there's a plane of movement that's directly in front of you. So when you cross your arms and you cross them, like when we do this, that's in a specific plane. But you're working with a motion that's in that plane of movement. When you see this, if you don't use your torso and you just forward and you just cross, and it's kind of one-dimensional because this hand is like this, and then when you get to the elbow down position, you turn your palms out and you push forward. So there's always like a point A to point B and then point B to point C or whatever. The thing is, if you want to add dimension to the movement and then you want to bring in integration of body, what ends up happening is you have to create the motion tying the two sides together as a relationship, and at the same time building sort of the passive active idea when one is driving the other, or something happens because of the function of. So a passive movement really happens because something it's created by another action and support, the function of, right? So in other words, like fan through the back. While we're focusing on the hand going out and this hand getting to here, your movement becomes a turning away. So when the hands separate, it's kind of called a splitting energy. So when they separate, it's not because the hand is pulling, it's because the body is drawing. And at the same time, you relax the shoulder and create that shape, the geometry of that. In this instance, when you punch and you cross the arms, if you turn the body and you create the action like this, then you bring in the idea of passive action movement, where when I turn like this, I didn't do this, because that becomes somewhat isolated, and it becomes, an isolated movement becomes disconnected in a sense. So if I punch like this, and you notice when I punch, when this goes forward, this sinks down and appears to go backwards. Because when your arm is like this, when I drop my elbow, this is going to retract. It's just like it's the mechanical side of what happens in the movement. It's like anything. If you have a hinge and you pivot from that point, this closes, right? So if this is a hinge joint, and I'm like this, and I fold the elbow, it's going to close. So if I'm using and creating that action, when I sink my elbow and I expand like this, you have that exchange of give and take. So you're not really moving your arm, even though it's moving, you're creating an action. Now, when you're controlling this, it's the to and fro, because our spine is rotating on the vertical axis. But we can't just turn the shoulders. We have to tie it through to the legs, where the body becomes part of that action. So between the two actions, you see the hips actually do a little and the body turns over. So you have a rotation here, and you have a rotation here, and you have a releasing and driving here. So those joints are becoming an integrated motion. In fact, all the joints are being integrated. So we have 15 joints that we're dealing with. We have 1, 2, 3, right? You have 3 on this side, that's 6. 3 on this side and 3 on this side, that's 12. Then your neck has to release. Then your sternum is part of that. And then it turns in the lower, in the coccyx area near the lumbar area, because your back is kind of split into 3 areas, 3 segments of the body. So those areas are moving in conjunction with each other as a coordinated fashion. That's what integration of body, trying to create the oneness. But the thing is, along with that, we have numerous joints throughout here. You have the clavicle area, you have your shoulder blades, you have a bunch of ribs here, and they're all attached to your spine, and the floating ribs. And so those all are maneuvering to create this action. So while we're doing this, we don't want to tilt, because that's not part of the movement. The tilting movement is when we're sinking down, tilting and opening, and we turn. So that's the tilt. That's where your ribs have these spaces there so that it can kind of collapse and expand. And then your spine actually rolls forward when you bend. That's why people have a rounded back. When people are slouched over, the back is rounded. When they're lifting up and the back is straight, then it's elongating. So your body does all these actions that are sort of positive and negative, or they complement each other. You can look at it as going right or left, up and down and up. They go in those directions because that's the only thing you can actually do. You either go forward and backward, right and left, or up and down, right? So anything in between that would be your central equilibrium, the balance point. So all the balancing and these actions have to be complementing each other or working with each other to supplement the motion. All of this stuff has to happen as a course of your posture, your action is all driven by this. So that's really perception. Your body has to take in the information from what you perceive it to be. So say 80% of what you're learning is through your eyes. So when your eyes see something, it has to be perceived as, as information. And the information that you translate really is based on what you understand. So when I bring in all these concepts and principles of integration of body, how do we go from here to here after we do the punch? Then we turn to this, to your left turn, and the hand comes down, around, and open. Now when I went like this and I turn like this hand is still. When I turn back, I sink my elbow and relax the shoulder. So like I said, when you go like this, when you drop your, this is hinging, right? It's folding. If I'm like this and I fold my elbow, I'm gonna create a movement like this, and then I go to leopard and tiger springs to mountain. So what we're trying to do is create our movements without moving our arms. Actually, we're creating. So that's why the movements in the arms appear to be much softer. So I call it the summation of components. So the more that's involved, the less strength is required per piece. Saying of the yeah. So that's a level. It's a level that's fairly advanced in a sense, because we have to have control of this area. So that's why that article that came out was very interesting, because it has to do with a neurologist or a neuro researcher that said that I'm not doing these exercises because how does it benefit me? I can deal with it from my mind. I'll let it go. But the thing is, when he researched it more and he found out someone else's research was tied into, and they were talking about stress and how you can alleviate the stress in your body through exercise or however, right? Mainly through movement. So they, because they have instruments now and they were able to look at things that they couldn't see in the past, because they always thought maybe most of the stress is related to a higher level hierarchy of thinking, and you can control that. But they have discovered that actually your core, the muscles in this area and the axial parts of the musculature is wired to your adrenaline gland. They call it the adrenaline medulla or something like that. And that's the one that's the fight or flight syndrome. So because that's wired to that, every movement that you have affects how that is, what it's going to do. So you can imagine, I guess if you're very stiff or your body probably feels a little bit stressed. So then your body's always in this like anxiety state. And then, so that was what was interesting to this guy. And they looked further and they found out, that there is a wiring and there's a mapping of this area in the gland that creates most of the fight or flight syndrome. So that's interesting to me because that's all I talk about is torso movement at a higher level. Because torso movement is important. But we don't really control our torso, normally as an average person. But when you do something like this, it's not the kind of torso movement you would do like you were doing 370-degree turns or 720-degree turns in some of the super sports, like the skiers or the snowboarders or gymnastics. That's high level body mechanics. But in fact, that probably is stressful for the body because it's so taxing and probably, whatever. With this, it's not the same thing. We're dealing with the same apparatus, but we're not dealing with it on a level where we're using a lot of physical strength. In fact, we try to eliminate the strength, just use the mind to direct. So we're doing that, and we're creating circulation throughout the body and controlling that mapping that's from here to the glands. Then you're actually controlling your stress. So that's why when people come and do the classes, they go through the forms, whether it's Kung Fu or Tai, they say, "Oh, I feel better." But you have to have a reason for it. Without some kind of scientific research or something that actually ties into that on this anatomical level or neurological level, it's just sort of a mind over matter thing. You say, "Oh yeah, I feel better because I'm not thinking about it. I'm clearing my thoughts. I'm not focused on." There's some of that, but there's also the movement, and you've been doing it a long time, and you wouldn't be doing this if it was only in your head, because if it's only in your head, all you need to do is memorize something. But when you memorize something, it doesn't involve your musculature, it doesn't involve your skeleton, it doesn't involve your body in that way. So if that's true of what they're saying, then that's part of the reason why this works. It's not, then it's like demystifying what we thought would be just meditation and clearing your thoughts and being in the moment. It's beyond that. It becomes somewhat of a mind-body on a physical level as well. So that's why it intrigues me, because I've been doing this for a long time, but I can't tell you that this is happening. But they tell you that this is happening, and I can make the correlation and tie that together and say, okay, now that makes sense. So that's what I try to get students to understand, that it's more than this placebo effect that a lot of times people talk about. There is an effect. It's just in your mind. They do that with drugs, see if it really works. But then sometimes they do it, whether it's like with acupuncture and these different things, it stimulates certain things that involves nerves and musculature. In fact, when they do acupuncture stimulation, it's stimulating energy and cells in the musculature. Because the musculature is tissue, and it has all these, these things in it, like nerves and sensors, and it's your body's designed to do that, to know. That's the only reason why you have these senses. So when I talk about proprioception, I talk about, repetition and assimilation. These are all kind of a mind-body relationship type things, because we learn as creatures of habit. We learn and become better through repetition, because we begin to understand through a process of elimination. So what do we eliminate? We eliminate tension. We eliminate erroneous motion. We eliminate all the things that we try to understand through what we see through the eyes. So the eyes actually take in all the information, but what are you seeing, right? So that's why when you go, well, how come it's like this, or how come it's like this? So if you bring it into functionality, now it kind of explains why there's a difference in how someone would do their movements. So those stylistic differences are not just because that individual did like that. It becomes a stylistic difference from that style. That's what those teachers are teaching, and that's so whoever you learn from or you follow, that's kind of how you're going to end up doing it. So a lot of times when people learn for a long time, they end up looking like their teachers, because that's what you're absorbing, and that's true of any kind of movement. So does it make sense? Yeah. 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 Okay. So you're here, right? And if we punch, here's that give and take. So the give and take is a forward-backward movement. This is right and left, or left and right. That's your infinity sign. And then this is forward and back, right? Now, right and left could be the arm. Right and left could be involving the body. The more of the torso that's involved, the less of the arm is involved. Because you're creating the same volume of movement with something else driving it, and it's not your hand, it's not just your elbow, and it's not because the shoulder's doing this. It's because it's regulated. And you're regulating it as a figure 8. But what you regulate, okay, when we do this in the exercise, we have 2, right? 2 exactly the same, and they merge in the middle. And if you kind of look at where they cross, it's right in front of the shoulder. The figure 8 is right about where the shoulder is, because the 2 petals are kind of the same size. Now, because I'm only doing 1, the center of that petal becomes your center of your body. So you have to create that movement relative to your body. So how big should it be? It should be as big as your shoulder. So this hand is like this. That's twice the width of your shoulder. If I go like this, that's about the width of my shoulder. But because I'm going to turn, the size is the same as the width of my shoulder. But because I'm going like this, I added a dimension to the movement. So you follow me there? Yeah. Okay, so if I add a dimension of movement here, what dimension did I add? A right and left, right? There's no forward and back really, right? It's kind of, because to get a forward and backward movement, you'd have to do this. Your elbow would have to bend and come in, so then that pulls this in, and then it goes out. So we just keep it pretty square with the body, or parallel to the body. But when we turn, and we turn, and we turn, you have now a dimension of movement that's right and left. But do we want it to have up and down? If you want to add the 3rd dimension, when you go to here, and you sink your leg and your elbow, the sinking and the rising and the sinking becomes the 3rd dimension. Are we supposed to be doing that? Yeah, at some point you will be doing that. It should be involved. Well, because the elbows and the knees have a relationship, right? And then the shoulder and the hip have a relationship. So if my shoulder's moving, my hips are moving. If my elbow is coming down, my knees are coming down. And then so you have forward, right, left, center, up and down. So that takes it into a three-dimensional motion. And so it becomes a control factor that I'm here, so the legs are moving and I'm turning. And then when I'm here, I pick that up and then I turn, then here's. So what you see as this and this becomes the legs. This becomes the expansion of that. If you tie your torso into that, when the hands come down and you go over the top, it's like a tiger leaping like this. Tremendous power and body. Right? So that's what we call imagery. You create this image of what you think your body's trying to replicate as a motion. So, if we say we did strum the lute, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, but I didn't come over here like this. I came over like this. I turned my torso. But at the same time, the geometry of your position, when I turn like this, my hand is like this. When I sink like this, my hand is like this. So your hand and your body are in sync. They're really working and they're making it a compatible motion. The size matters because you're using it in reference to your own body. So that's where accuracy of movement comes in, and it's interesting, but you have to be interested in being interested, right? Because a lot of people say, they couldn't be bothered with that. They just want to go through the sequence. But that's a stage of development because you have to trigger an interest point that your mind actually wants to evolve. So otherwise you just kind of get stuck there and you just keep doing it. And when you ask people questions, people would say, well, no, I don't have any questions, because you don't really know if there is a question to ask, because you really don't, you can't see that there's something else that's missing, because you only can see what you know. Most of the time, yeah. Oh, well, bent in the sense that they're relaxed and you're sinking in your stance all the time. No, only like when you step up and you raise, and then you bend, and then when you come around and you sink, now you're done here. So the up and down movement doesn't happen so much in the legs. It has much more to do with the rounding and unrounding of your back. So that's a lifting. Now, if the torso is very rigid because this is very, stiff, then you're not going to get that folding or rounding in the back. So that hollowing of the chest and the rounding of the back doesn't happen, because that's a motion, and motion is a motor skill. So if you don't have motion from the motor skill, then it's just there to accommodate what you normally would do as just going through the paces. Like, if you have to bend over, your back might round and you pick up something. But it's not happening as a controlled action that you're directing it from the mind. And the body has to recognize that when you go like this and I round over and then I lift up, that it's not the hand, that it's the body. So it takes a bit of effort and a bit of focus to get those things to happen. So the spine is where all these nerves go through and all the, the wiring that goes through to all the different parts of your body. Your arms have this mapping, your legs have this mapping, your torso has this mapping, and then there's probably the mapping that they're talking about that goes to the adrenal gland. But there's probably mapping to every single thing in your body, but maybe they haven't discovered it yet. But at the same time, you could be a neurologist not thinking about what we're doing in Tai Chi, which is really pretty complicated, complex motion, because they don't do this. They can look at other sports that are so, much more appealing to the masses. So something like this, they say, do it. It helps you improve balance. But how does it improve balance? It's good for stress relief. How does it do that? Good for circulation. How does it do that? People don't think about their circulation because they get up in the morning, they get through the day, and it seems that circulation must be happening because I'm still here. Right? You go through the day and you could be ailing and until you do something and you say, I'm alive and kicking, everything's okay, but is it okay? It's, Javi? I ran into Javi about maybe 2 years ago at Bird and Circus, and he goes, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" I said, "I was doing fine." He said, "Oh yeah, my knees are bothering me. I need to have knee replacements and da da da." He said, "By the way, I think I'm going to give you a check for a donation to the Scholarship Foundation." So he gave me a check for like something, for the scholarship. This was 2 years ago. Yeah, so that was the last time I saw Javi. But yeah, he has a lot of problems with his knees now. So he said he couldn't do this. But Javi's a little bit rigid, stiff. But he trained in a style that created a lot of rigidity. I know that style too, and it does teach rigidity. But the thing is, it can't be extreme. There's rigidness and there's softness. And you have to find the balance between. Because if it's rigid, what do? You get rigid. And rigid's not good because, like we're talking about the stress and all that stuff, people that were saying as part of that article, when people are depressed or they're down and they're out, that body form is created by what's going on with your gland because of the. So you might be overly tight like this, or you don't know, and but people can't feel their body through that experience because they're not aware of it. So what we try to do is develop this sensitivity to awareness and feeling. So your sensory system plays a major role in everything that we're doing in movement. So when my teacher used to say, you have to feel the movement. So you think of feeling, it ties to your emotion, it ties to experience and expression, right? And then your sensory system ties to all of that, from touching, feeling. So eyes and ears, we hear and we listen. The taste doesn't come into play, but feeling and sensitivity does. Because when you go like this and you touch and you feel your movements, you're feeling actually what your joints are going through as an action. And you can feel your body releasing and going through if you're aware of that. So there are stages of development, and that's, they call it the somatosensory system that's tied to all of these. And proprioception is part of that. Yeah, sure. We can. That was a lot of talking, huh? Yeah. So, it's good to understand in a sense what we're trying to get out of this, because why would someone do this? And honestly, a lot of people don't have patience with this. So, There's minor. Okay, deep breathing. Saved by the bell. Looks like minor. It's 11 o'clock, just right. Yeah. What? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. She's Susan watching? Yeah. So, we don't know exactly who's watching, General, but Mina just told me that there's 5 people. This month is sort of trial and experimenting with, this platform, trying to do some Zoom meetings along with the regular live stream class. That usually will happen half an hour at the end of the classes, to focus on more of what some of the maybe YouTube members are doing. But if you're already sort of a supporter of the brick and mortar, we're going to actually have you use the Vimeo platform, because that's something you can access without actually being a member. But if you wanted to be a member just for the month of February, it's $1.99 just to see how it works. But along with that is, if you're an active member that's not coming, then you can email us your email. And I know there's about 7 of you, and then I can email you the slot for the live stream and the Zoom. So we're working that out where the wireless mic will work for the Zoom and this camera, and we can switch between. So you'll have more of a direct interaction as someone, studying, and maybe get a little bit more out of it than just kind of following the class. So that's the goal. We'll see what happens. Everything is experimental. It's just another idea. So anyways, that's it for today. Hopefully you got something out of that. Keep the mind clear, get the body working together, and